1996, the Nintendo 64 was released, Taiwan had its first presidential election, and only one of these things has Super Smash Bros. And let me tell you, it's not the city of Kaohsiung. Somewhere across the world sits a young John Turteltaub ruminating on this idea for a historical sweeping adventure film. And then after about a year, he about a year after marinating the idea in Caesar salad dressing, after about a year of kicking around this idea, he went to our Lord and Savior Jerry Bruckheimer.
1997, R.I.P. Biggie Smalls, Princess Diana. Enter George Ross, Johnny Cashew. Not a bad trade, I'd say. Bruckheimer, in and around this time, was kind of at the top of his game, producing so many movies such as Bad Boys, Crimson Tide, Armageddon, as well as Con Air, The Rock, and Gone in 60 Seconds with Nicolas Cage.
Sometime before 2000, Bruckheimer and Turteltaub traveled far and wide the Castle Cage to present to him the idea of a lifetime. Nick Cage had previously burst onto the scene in the late 80s and really hadn't left the cultural zeitgeist, and pretty much never did. While not every movie in this range was a hit, he had a knack for knowing when it was time to do one for them. When presented with this national gold, Cage was generally skeptical, stating, "I think that the very thing that made me trepidatious was the same thing that intrigued me, which is the idea of a man going in and stealing the Declaration of Independence." Now, doesn't that make you want to run through a brick wall? Huh? Inside of those bricks, in the brick wall, are the glasses, the secret glasses from the movie, and you're at Independence Hall, and the Liberty Bell, and you're in the 2004 movie National Treasure. Because it makes me want to do those things.
Diane Kruger, who was casted as Abigail Chase in the movie, allegedly put off and intimidated Nick Cage while on the set. But Bruckheimer, on the other hand, said she got the job because of her beautiful blue eyes and how gorgeous she was. She also impressed the Bruck with her dashing looks and great acting in the 2004 film Troy, where she played Helena of Troy. Certainly not a great movie, but man, does Brad Pitt ever hang dong. On the way other side of the spectrum was Justin Bartha, though, who was still getting publicly shamed for his role in the 2004 film. Here's what he had to say about playing the role Riley in the film. "I also wanted to make him a bit of a wild man. He has been in a tiny little cubicle making computer models and someone finally comes in and gives him a chance to go on an adventure. And I think everyone can really identify with that. Most people work in a cubicle for their entire life, so I wanted to make him like a mouse in a cage. And you release him and he has to find that cheese." Now in the film, Riley is out of that cage, but perhaps around an even greater cage.
We're really losing steam on the whole years thing here, but now it's 2004, the Facebook is introduced to college students, while some students are dropping out and hanging out with Jay-Z instead. Now, would you rather pay $50,000 a year for school or have dinner with Jay-Z? Oh wait, that's not the prompt. Anyway, by the time it came out, National Treasure follows Benjamin Franklin Gates on his quest to find an ancient Freemason treasure with the help of tech wizard Riley and archivist Abigail. Can Nick Cage find the treasure before the typecast British bad guy? Find out on this week's...
He's not like James Bond because he's not a violent person. He doesn't have a gun. Ben Gates isn't like Indiana Jones because I'm not chasing ghosts. I'm more like a historical, archaeological detective, if you will, in this movie.
Season 2. I missed you guys.
Green screen's taut now.
I missed you, guy.
All 50 of you. Well, we're probably like 10, 15, 20 of the subscribers.
Yeah, my parents. I want more movies of this genre, the adventure, sprawling genre of... Do you think people in other countries have a reference for this movie? It's very United States driven.
I think the only thing that kind of like gets us to the other audiences is just like Nicolas Cage. It's a Nicolas Cage movie.
Adventure.
Did he talk?
If I know your name, I feel like you're relatively like famous.
Yeah. If my parents know your name, you're like Mel Gibson. He's really dealing with that. Like he does not have reverence for history.
No, he called it out. I could.
All right, that was funny. Welcome to We Have More Thoughts, the analysis section. We're trying things out with the form here on the show, have a more conversational aspect.
Still the same show, nothing to be scared of for all like the OGs out there. You know, just trying some things out.
Guess who's back?
Transition. I think it's interesting to go back and look at the major players that made this film and their last 5 films, what they were doing in the 10 years preceding these events.
I'm interested myself in what Bartha was up to.
We got some good stuff on Bartha. So Bruck, he was kind of on a tear. Jerry Bruckheimer, he produced King Arthur, which is an Anton Fuqua film. So he was a little bit of a hot name in the late 90s and early 2000s. Bad Boys 2, sequel of a very successful action movie. Veronica Guerin, Cate Blanchett movie. Pirates of the Caribbean, I mean, massive.
That's a Bruck?
That's a Bruck. It feels like a Bruck.
That, yeah, you know, that you mentioned that, it is a Bruck type vibe.
And Bad Company, which I have no note for, so I don't know what it is.
I got nothing on Bad Company.
Nick Cage's last 5. The Matchstick Men, which is a Ridley Scott project. He was pretty much picking all. He was the pretty girl at the dance.
Well, this was
right
like,
now.
what was this after? I mean, I think 90s Nick Cage was like stardom, and then I think right when he gets into like the 2000s, he starts taking on good stuff, but then like the shitty stuff is like really intertwined in now.
Adaptation, Academy. He was nominated for Best Actor, so
I feel like he should have won, but I don't know who that was against.
that would be a wonderful thing for me to note, but I don't know.
I'm gonna say he should have won that. I'm gonna say it right now. Nicolas Cage should have won the 2000.
Dual roles, pretty interesting stuff. Wind Talkers, another John Woo film. He worked with John Woo on what? Face Off.
Oh, that's
Face
a John
Off
Woo. Oh.
So you see why he'd want to work on another project with him. He voiced Marley in an animated telling of The Christmas Carol, and then he was in a film called Captain Corelli's Mandolin, which is a John Madden film. His next film after Shakespeare in Love.
John Madden.
not of Madden fame.
He did
Here we got Nick, you're gonna move to the left. Jet sweep. I don't know. That's all I got.
Hail Mary here, Nick. We're gonna need tears. We're gonna need tears right now.
But no, it was the guy that did Shakespeare in Love, and it was his movie right after that, so he was probably a hot ticket item as well. Diane Kruger was in a couple French films, really nothing crazy. She was also in Troy that came out the same year.
Based on the sound of like how she got casted in this movie, it seems like they were just like, "Oh, you're pretty. Let's give you."
Yeah, we got a couple quotes on that. Nick Cage was afraid of her.
Nick Cage was afraid of her?
He was intimidated by her, and then Bruckheimer was like, I like that.
I like that too.
Which honestly, it kind of plays out in their dynamic of the movie. They have like she kind of puts him in his place type vibe.
She's the only one who knows more history than Ben Gates.
Yeah, so I think she does a great job. But then Bruckheimer was like, she had beautiful blue eyes and that blue hair.
Seems a little predatory.
Blonde hair.
Seems a little predatory when you're casting a movie and like all you have to say about the actress, like they're so beautiful. This girl is so beautiful. How's their acting?
Yeah.
What?
He also must have seen an advanced copy of Troy or something because it came out in the same year. Maybe it just came out way earlier. But
Was she Helena of Troy in that movie?
Yeah.
Like she was like the bad
one of the leads, yeah. Which, funnily enough, Sean Bean plays Odysseus in Troy as
Does he
well.
die in that movie?
Yeah. So
Well, he doesn't die in National Treasure.
they tag teamed in 2004. They both were in National Treasure and Troy.
They probably had a lot of inside jokes on the set.
Yeah. This reminds me of when we saw Brad Pitt's wiener in the first scene. Bartha was really nothing other than Geely, which I actually watched an hour of that last night, where he plays a to quote Robert Downey Jr., he goes full R. He goes full R in the movie, and I was actually going to ask you this. So he's trying to be a working actor in Hollywood. He's in this Ben Affleck, Jennifer Lopez movie, which is huge at the time.
Yeah, they're like peaking there.
I feel like we can't blame Bartha for going full R, because that was just, he wanted to work.
That was I mean, if you're Riley, Bartha, and you're hungry, you're starving at that point in your career. You want to do something that'll kind of put you on the map. Like maybe he's thinking, this is my I Am Sam.
Yeah.
This is my Forrest Gump.
So to, I guess, draw some sort of conclusion, seems like Bruck and Nick Cage were cooking, and the rest of them, Sean Bean was cooking a little bit, but then Kruger and Bartha are just along for the ride.
Sean Bean's had an illustrious, great career.
Yeah, of dying. And
He's done a lot of good stuff, though. Like, Sean Bean has carved himself out a good niche. He's, like, a solid guy. Whereas, like, Diane Kruger and Bartha, they got nothing.
Oh, like Post. You're saying
Post and
Treasure.
Pre. Post-Pre, they really don't do a lot.
Yeah, as their launching point.
Justin Bartha is famous for a character who wasn't even in the movie, like The Hangover. That's his claim to fame.
Yeah.
Riley, National Treasure, mentally handicapped person, and guy in The Hangover.
I was thinking this earlier in the shower. Like, do you think someone came up to him? They were like, Justin Bartha, Justin Bartha. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, they're like, you were in, and he's like, The Hangover. They're like, no, and he's like, National Treasure. Then they're like, no, Geely, you were in Geely. He's like, no, I wasn't on a Geely. But some other pre-production notes that I had here was that Cage was hesitant to sign on because he didn't know how to play the character, and he was talking with the old Bruck, and together they revealed a couple inspos, and one was Cary Grant and one was Jimmy Stewart, all-time old actors.
I like get where that's coming from, but I don't get it in the movie. Almost like Nick Cage just kind of seems like a cool dude. He's not like, he doesn't have like a suaveness to him like those guys do. I feel like.
Well, they said they were described as very playful.
It's like, imagine if Cary Grant's being playful. Like, imagine you're at a park or something, and you got like your kids. You got like your kids on there. They're playing on the playground or something. Cary Grant's talking to the kids or something. I wouldn't think that's creepy. It's like that's playful. He's like an old man trying to like. He's just like talking to some kids. Nick Cage, you're at a player. You see that guy chatting with your kids. You're like, ooh.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think it's a decent thing to note for inspiration. Though,
yeah,
those types of movies, like North by Northwest and Rear Window and Vertigo, are like in the same vein of the entertainment value that they're going for with a National Treasure. But I also see what you're saying, to where Nicolas Cage just isn't.
He's not that guy.
He's not that guy, pal. And they wanted. Bruckheimer added that another similarity is that they have witty dialogue and their adventure romps, and that's what they felt this film was going to be. Witty dialogue, I wouldn't say it's witty. I don't think National Treasure, would you consider this a smart screenplay?
I'd say it's quippy, almost like a Marvel film. But not as bad. Not as bad as a Marvel film, I don't think.
It's
not smart. Like with Nick Cage, like it doesn't, like he's not coming across as like cool and smart and badass.
Okay, so that's actually interesting to me. So you don't think BFG, Benjamin Franklin Gates, you don't buy that he's smart?
I think he's smart. I just wish they broke down his character more, because he is like a disgraced figure in like his family. Him and his family are disgraced figures within the history community.
It says he's an American historian, cryptographer, and treasure hunter.
And diver.
And those are his jobs. He has four jobs.
But it's like they don't show the outside perception of that family, because in the movie and like in the screenplay and in the background, they talk about how like he's like disgraced and they think his family is weirdos because they're going after his treasure.
Came in at number 10 for the year in box office, behind bangers such as Shrek 2, Spider-Man 2, Prisoner of Azkaban, The Incredibles, Shark Tale, and The Polar Express, which aren't good. And took home $150 million domestically and $347 worldwide. So it was $100 million budget before advertising. Took home almost 50.
Definitely, yeah, that's a profit.
Solid.
It's why they made a second. They're not making a second National Treasure. Surprised they didn't make a Shark Tale 2. Now that you brought that up, that it was top 10 grossing movie that year. I was actually 2 of those theater tickets. I saw that twice when I was young.
Wow, movie so nice you saw her twice. Same weekend as SpongeBob SquarePants movie. I saw both these movies
That was
in theaters.
that long ago? The
Yeah.
SpongeBob SquarePants movie? That movie
2004.
fucks. That's a really good television show movie.
Some movies I thought it was surprising this movie did better than is I, Robot, Meet the Fockers, and Troy. That's a big budget action movie with Will Smith in the 2000s. Big budget action movie, historical action movie with Brad Pitt, and it made less money. And then a sequel with Ben Stiller and Robert De Niro that was incredibly successful, the first movie. So that's pretty surprising.
Well, do comedies like that don't just make a lot of money at the box office, I feel like.
They don't now. They used to make a
They
decent
used
bit
to.
of change.
I could see maybe with Troy. I'm not watching a movie based off like an epic poem. Honestly, you can have all the people you want. I'm not watching something like that I learned in history class. Like,
What do you mean? The Robert Frost Two Roads Diverged in Wood movie's coming out this weekend. It's gonna be sick. Andy Serkis is in it.
Is he both roads?
Yeah, he's playing the roads. That is dumb as hell. Yeah, Roger Ebert didn't really like the film. He gave it 2 stars, and he said that Monty Python could use the screenplay line for line because it was so silly. I don't necessarily agree there. I could agree with the 2 out of 4 stars, but not that assessment of the film.
The movie wasn't like the script. You're not watching it like, this is bad, this is funny. It's so funny because it's bad.
No, not at all, not at all. It's stupid, but it's a family film aimed at kids.
And like their reasonings in the plot to discover the treasure and all that, it makes sense in world.
I think this is my first Nick Cage movie that I've ever seen. I was 7. You were 7 too.
I'd probably have to agree with you there.
Yeah, I don't even know what it would have been other than that.
I don't know. This movie has very much implanted a spot in my brain throughout my whole entire life. Like literally my whole entire life. There's just something there's some sticking power with National Treasure in your brain.
There's a charm, there's an undeniable charm to it. And it has a good score, and they'll be talking about the Freemasons or some dumb shit, and you're not really listening to it, and then the score comes in, and you're like, this is
It's
cool.
all epic.
Yeah.
Cage is solving a riddle.
Transition. First off, I sectioned it off in the set pieces. So we have 4 main set pieces in this film. The Arctic, could be Alaska, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and New York. Do you think that it's weird that it opens in the Arctic when the rest of the movie is all in prominent colonial cities and it's a colonial story, and then the opening of the movie is in Antarctica?
I mean, it makes sense if they're looking for a ship.
That was taking that route? Or?
Yeah, but I don't really like the first act, like the first couple scenes. I think they jam too much into it to get the plot going. Like, we're 10 minutes in the movie, and Nick Cage says, we have to steal the Declaration of Independence so Sean Bean doesn't steal the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah. So, well, before that, at the advice...
Yeah.
Starts with a flashback, at the advice of his grandfather, who his grandfather was given the advice from Charles Carroll, which is a signatory of the Declaration. He was given that little bit, the Charlotte, to find the ship, right? And then Nick Cage cuts years later, like 30 years later, and he's leading an expedition to find the boat, banked financially by our villain, Ian Howe. Immediately gives up. They just flew across the country, traveled to this random spot. Beep, beep. Nah, dude, we got
Now that they're here, I think we should call it quits. Let's pack it up.
They find the pipe that says that the next clue is on the Declaration. They then fight, leaving Cage and Riley for dead. What in this sequence works and doesn't for you?
Why do they keep touching all the gunpowder? Sean Bean's just going around going, yeah.
Hidden in a barrel full of gunpowder that he was grabbing as he froze to death was this MacGuffin that allows them to get into the thing at the end of the movie.
My favorite part of the sequence, which we talked about, was how Sean Bean kept touching the gunpowder. I'm like, why is he just like looking at this and grabbing it like he's never seen gunpowder before? He's not even sifting through the barrels. Only for the reveal
Oh, that's why they had all the shots of him touching it.
Oh.
Okay, this movie's a little smarter than we're giving it credit for.
That's good ass filmmaking by Bruck. See, I know Bruckheimer. That's he wanted that in the film.
That is, he's gonna explode from the flare.
Yeah.
I thought that was great for some reason.
Yeah.
Because I don't really care about anyone that I just met in that scene except for Nick Cage, and you know he's not gonna die. There's, like, the stakes have never been lower in that scene.
The first scene of the movie with the star, yeah.
It's like they set up such a high octane kind of like betrayal of like trust between Nick Cage and Sean Bean. He's obviously not going to kill him. It's just like it seems like a forced setup of the villains.
Yeah, you definitely have no emotional stake here because you know that Nick Cage isn't going to die, and you didn't know these men to be friends but 20 seconds ago. So him having his betrayal, you're just like... But it honestly, in the script, he's just financially backing this expedition, he being Sean Bean. So they're like not even friends. So this isn't even a big mic drop betrayal.
So they make... So Sean Bean really... Justin Bartha and Sean Bean each have 1 to 2 lines each about their backstory.
Yeah.
Riley's is... Aren't you glad we pulled you out of that cubicle? That's all we know about him. That is all we know about that guy. And Sean Bean's like, in another life, I used to be mad sketchy, and I'm backing your stuff.
It bothers me more with Riley because we have to understand why he's that good at computers, and they literally just said cubicle. They didn't say where. Reading it, I think it was CIA. He was working for the CIA or something, I read. But I had to read an article to figure out that information. Don't say it in the movie.
To do that.
Yeah.
You should never have to do that with this is like a Disney movie.
I like how they say cubicle. It could just be literally any job. He was just working for insurance, and then they just plucked him out.
Like, I wish they showed, like, it's like, oh, we pulled you out of the MIT cubicle or something. It's like, okay, all right, that's enough. It kind of gives, like, because Riley is really only there as the comedic relief, but he's not that funny.
No, not at all.
But he's like having fun. Like, he's like...
And that is something I think the movie just really isn't funny. It's fun.
No.
Not me.
Fun, not funny. The only time I feel like I really laughed was the scene when Nick Cage kissed Diane Kruger and the guy said, why doesn't that happen to me? Because that was so out of left field and like not in tone with the movie. I was like,
it's cartoony. So I think visually this scene works because especially the rest of the movie is in these colonial cities and they all kind of look similar. So I think it's cool to set the movie with the snowy terrain and the set looks really good. So I think this works. I think right now we're still at a solid movie.
Yeah, I just think it rushes into everything way too fast. But I guess that's the point, is it's more about the journey to find the treasure than it is how he gets the relationship with the characters. Like, one isn't more important than the other, but they clearly showed they just want to show the treasure hunt itself, not who cares about Sean Bean's backstory.
So then next we go to DC, where Riley and Benjamin Franklin Gates try to warn Abigail Chase of the National Archives that the Declaration of Independence is in danger, and she ostensibly tells them to fuck off. They have a lot of faith in Sean Bean's ability to steal it. Because they end up stealing it. So it's not even like we know for sure that he would have stole it. What if he just got caught? And the movie's over?
I feel like they would have. I guess people, like the government, people are aware of Nicolas Cage and his family's like...
So they might be thinking he's lying?
They might think he's just like, it's like, oh, this guy's fucking annoying.
He's like a conspiracy theorist.
Why doesn't he tell her the other riddle? The riddle he solved. Maybe she'll be like, oh yeah, like, Iron Pen. There's definitely a couple of like fuckers on there who are just like in the room or like there by association, like.
Oh fuck.
they're just like mate, you want me? Okay, all right.
Their name. Yeah, sure thing, man. Everyone normally calls me Tony, though. You guys don't know that, but I'm gonna write Tony because my family calls me Tony. Dude, to get into the zeitgeist though of saying put your John Hancock on something as being synonymous with signature is pretty fucking sick. That has nothing to do with movies, but...
That's a cool legacy that he'll never know. Mr. Hancock will never know.
Just throw your old George Ross down on there. He'll just take the dump on the face. And then BFG decides that the Declaration will be safest in his own hands, which we can litigate in a moment.
They are just completely thinking he's gonna steal it. They're just like, there's no way he gets caught stealing this.
Yeah, why don't they just let him try?
Why don't they just...
And wait outside, and then if he does successfully do it, then start fucking him up.
What are they gonna do if he sees Nicolas Cage? Kill him in a museum?
And Riley and he heist it, and Abigail joins them because she is suspecting. They get away, and they meet up with Papa Cage because they realize that they need the do-good letters that were once in his possession. He tells them that he no longer has them, and that they're at the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia. It's a long sequence, but does this work?
That's the best. That whole thing's the best sequence in the movie.
Yeah, that is the movie for me as well. The
It
entire
pretty much
movie.
is like this movie really just is like a first act that's like 15 minutes, and then like an hour long second act, and then it closes.
That's good.
Which yeah, I don't mind because it is. I think they just we don't have to get in Philadelphia, but this whole scene. I like the whole thing works really well. I think like this is the best part.
He's in a tuxedo. He's looking like a movie star. You got the guy in the ear. I forgot to research that as well. The history of the man in the ear.
It never says the history, but that's just such a trope in so many things. But it's like this is the most spy the movie gets.
I'm in. I love a good mission.
I will say, what was he doing before on his treasure hunt that kind of gave him the tools and resources and ideas to know how to do what he's doing now? Because it seemed like before he was traveling, solving riddles, and now he's
doing legitimate spy work.
This is literally James Bond. This is like when I was watching Mission Impossible 1 yesterday. This is like the Mission Impossible 1 mission.
He's
like,
breaking into a place that is explicitly made to be hard to break into.
with a hacker guy, like doing shit
One
behind the
person
scenes.
helping him.
Oh, is the password's gonna be? Isn't it something like a history word?
Valley Forge. I hate how I remember that.
Valley Forge.
Right? No way. This museum, their password would be like America themed. It'd probably just be like 26 characters that are just like symbols and numbers and
Yeah, that's. I mean,
So he uses Abigail's fingerprint on the champagne glass to get in, and then the Declaration saves him because it has bulletproof glass. Sean Bean shoots to kill. How do you feel about that in a kids movie? Some shooting to kill with guns. It's a little intense.
I just Sean Bean's motivation is really just flawed in this movie.
I think if this exact movie came out today and you changed nothing, it would be PG-13.
Probably. This would still be, I think, a hard PG. There's a lot of guns in it.
There's a lot of guns.
Maybe they would have to be not aiming to kill.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I think this scene. I think is like the best part of the movie, but it really doesn't feel like any other part of the movie. Like they're literally like spies. Nick Cage knows way too much. It makes sense that he knows about the infrastructure of the building of the museum, but he knows so much that he can break into it and
Yeah, there's never a scene where they're like, oh, here's the map of the museum. I feel like they never even...
He just knows. He's like, okay, so then when it's after hours, they put it down to clean the documents, and it's in this secret underground area, but all the guards aren't going to be there because it's the gala this evening.
We glazed over one of these parts here. Riley and BFG try to warn Abigail Chase. I have some issues with that scene because they come to the conclusion that them stealing the Declaration of Independence means it's in safer hands than if the other guys do. I feel like if you were truly trying to warn them of the danger of the document, you'd have headshots of Sean Bean and the guys. Be like, this is what they look like. Relatively, it could happen any night now. Just have some more security, maybe. Here's the clue that led us here.
Well, he didn't have the clue.
He could have.
He did. So he could have done. I hate that in movies. It's such a thing in movies where someone doesn't actually explain what's happening to them, right?
Yeah.
And then the other person's like, "Oh, what do you mean?" Or it's like, you see something like TV shows, someone catches someone in an awkward situation, and before they can explain, they go, "Oh, what?" and then they leave. It gives me that kind of vibe.
Yeah. So, yeah, and just They're really banking that Sean Bean and co. are going to very easily steal this declaration successfully.
And, well, they weren't wrong.
I mean, we don't know.
Because Sean Bean and friends got down to where the document was, no issue.
Yeah.
And I just don't get really the whole thing.
Yeah.
But that's something you can just, you gotta just forget about it and just watch the movie. You're watching National Treasure. He has to steal the Declaration of Independence. He has to do it, or else it's dumb. It makes it dumb that he does it, but it makes it dumb that he wouldn't do it either.
Why do you pull out mad coins? You hear that?
That is a weird sound effect.
Wait, what? There are no coins, too.
Oh, he's got a couple coins.
He's got a lot of loose change in his pocket when he's on a mission right now.
I think the sequence of scenes at Papa Cage's house, John Voight, I think those work well.
Yeah, those are good.
And I do like the dynamic that he saw his father waste his whole life searching for this treasure, and now he's seeing it make his son crazy too. So he's very against this whole charade.
But he's very into it, low-key, at the same time.
Because he's a Gates. He still has it in his blood.
Because he's smart enough to know that it's... I don't know, I kind of want to know about John Voight's character, too. Like, what's his background? Is he a history guy, too, but he's not, as defamed as Nick Cage?
Yeah.
I just wish they showed... Because in the second one, they do that. The second movie is all about
Their
backlash.
history, yeah.
Yeah, because they think that he killed Abraham Lincoln or something, which really wouldn't even be a big deal.
Yeah.
Why was that a big deal?
He didn't do anything.
It's like...
Well, Nicolas Cage is really about the family name. But yeah, you're right. He didn't fucking do anything. I forgot, we glossed over this. They, how do you feel about, in the beginning, so 4 generations ago, they knew that they needed to find the Charlotte. And Nick Cage finds it 4 generations later, and we don't see any of the work that went behind it, so it makes it seem mad easy, and why didn't anyone else do that, before him? Why didn't his grandpa do that?
They didn't even tell us where we were at the Charlotte either.
Yeah.
And Sean Bean, I guess, kind of implies it's I'm more than just your funding. So it's Sean Bean is funding this expedition on those crazy ice vehicles they have.
Yeah, it's messy. The opening is just messy, and I feel like it's just hoping that you're not paying attention to it.
And then they're also hoping they know that they're all right, this is only 15 minutes.
Yeah.
This is 15 minutes of a 2-hour movie. They'll get over it. Because I wish they explained the Charlotte like it was the big thing. Like his grandpa was explaining
Yeah,
it.
like it was the thing.
And then, next scene.
Oh, we just found this pipe.
Yeah, fuck you, grandpa. You spent your whole life looking for this? Ass.
So we agree that the Arctic and that the DC sequences work well. And then after that, we'll get into it, but the movie goes down from here for me. So,
yeah.
Philadelphia. Oh, and I forgot to mention in the DC, the FBI side of things, Harvey Keitel's character is introduced at the scene, and he's going to start investigating. They're looking for BFG as well.
Kind of nothing for me in the movie.
Nothing.
It's kind of a nothing character for me.
Surprised Harvey Keitel's even doing it.
Transition.
So we get to Philadelphia. Riley enlists a kid who's on a field trip to decipher the code on the do-good letters that lead them to Independence Hall, where inside of before that, they had their little weird-ass, J. Crew changing...
I like the Riley scene, and I did like the Urban Outfitters scene, because I thought it was funny.
They have their Banana Republic-ass scene. Where the sexual tension, we get a little more sexual tension. Riley has his moment. You love Riley's moment where he calls Nick Cage out. Yeah.
I like how he even acknowledges, I know something about history that you don't.
Yeah. I think that is probably Riley's best moment in the film. This whole little stretch with him and the kid.
Yeah, him and the kid's good, because he's actually doing stuff.
Yeah.
Where my one critique, and I said this while we were watching, when Riley's writing the letters, and the kid's like, that's not an N. That doesn't look like an N to me. And Riley's like, what do you mean it is? But it's clearly an R he wrote.
Yeah. And it never comes back
And
up.
it never comes back.
I think he just had bad handwriting. I have no idea.
Like, that's such a weird thing to me that they left that in the movie.
That like broke our brain, yeah. Because before we were roasting the gunpowder thing, and that came back.
I thought that was gonna come
So
back.
we were gonna. It was like, oh, it was an R. We went to the wrong place.
Yeah, I thought Sean Bean was gonna do something because he misread Riley's bum ass handwriting.
That would have been cool.
But that and Urban Outfitters scene is good. And I was under the impression this whole movie that Diane Kruger had like a boyfriend, and she's like kind of flirty.
Is that not her boyfriend?
I think it is.
Yeah.
But he is literally forgotten about.
Yeah.
Because there's that scene where Nick Cage chugs the champagne, and then her
She's
boyfriend's
wet, dude.
literally like trying to chase after him. She's feral after him.
Yeah.
And all he does is chug champagne. Why is he a diver? What does that add to it?
There should be a scene where like right after they stole the Declaration, they're like getting changed in the bathroom, and like Justin Bartha's like peeing, and he accidentally gets pee on the Declaration. Don't get piss on the. And then it like somehow that's what reveals the enzymes in your piss have revealed the map.
Keep being Riley. I don't gotta go anymore. I don't gotta go anymore.
The guy walks into the bathroom as he's begging him to pee. No, it's all you guys. Sorry.
He just walks in.
Now that's a scene.
So then after that, it leads them to Independence Hall, where inside or outside of where the bell is, they find a special pair of glasses inside of a special brick that reveal a clue to the Trinity Church in New York. So, right after this, they get in a big chase with Sean Bean and co. Nick Cage gets caught by the FBI. Sean Bean and co. get the Declaration. And they get Diane Kruger and Riley. And then they help Ian, the bad guy, then helps Nick Cage escape because Nick Cage has to lead them to where the treasure actually is.
But this is where him being a diver comes in. Because they mentioned that once. Why is he a diver? I guess for historical
big
artifacts.
moment.
For historical artifacts, but then he just jumps in the water and there's a scuba guy helping him out. So,
Yeah.
Weird. That I think was the worst sequence of the movie. I think them
The whole-
running around
the action
Philadelphia,
sequence, yeah.
running around Philadelphia until they got to the church in New York was I think probably the worst part of the movie.
I agree.
Because I don't care about the FBI. I honestly think they could have just been not thrown in.
Well, this is where you're missing an action star because Nicolas Cage isn't doing anything physical. He hits the one guy with the leather-bound thing that is carrying the container that carries the Declaration, and the guy gets like knocked out.
Yeah, he kills that guy.
What's happening here?
Oh, that was sick.
I don't think that would knock you out. I don't think him hitting with that Declaration thing would even hurt that much.
I don't think so either.
Like a leather-bound tube, that could not hurt that bad.
It's just like, this is where if it's the Mummy, Brendan Fraser is doing something, or
He's not like James Bond.
Harrison Ford's doing something in Indiana Jones.
Ben Gates isn't like Indiana Jones.
It's physical. There's
Yeah,
a
they can play
physicality
up a
to it.
physical
There's
aspect.
punching, and they just completely have none of that. It's a lot of walking and looking. Oh no!
There's that scene during the chase where Nick Cage is running around the graveyard and
Yeah.
he's like prancing. He's not.
It's not
It's not
athletic at all.
realistic. And Nick Cage is an action guy too.
And then the guy does the classic. He could have shot him at any time, and then he waits to shoot him when he goes into the graveyard, and there's just like a bunch of things that he can hit that aren't Nick Cage.
Nicolas Cage is not in a hurry.
Woo! That was funny. Why is he running like that? He's running like he's frolicking in a field in the sound of music. Why did the guy just have the idea to shoot him as well?
That's just a classic like henchman thing in any form of media is that they'll never shoot when they can and just like the stormtroopers, they're just fucking garbage.
So the thing is, the espionage, the mission of getting the Declaration works so well that I wish the whole movie was like that.
Yeah.
But then they go into a chase sequence after the Declaration. Then they go to another chase sequence in Philly.
There's two separate chase sequences
Yeah.
where they're chasing after the Declaration of Independence.
And they're not shot that well. The one with the van
The car's good.
in DC is good. The walking one in Philly is so dumb. It's very boring, and this is where the movie starts to lose me. Both both narratively and action-wise, because now we're getting glasses inside of a brick that the cipher told. This is where it's really starting to lose me, like
pretty
what
much-
it means.
It just seemed like they repeated like this sequence with him stealing the Declaration of Independence was so cool.
Yeah.
Let's have another sequence where he finds another item and then goes on another chase. It
Yeah.
seems like they just repeated the formula that they did in the previous like other scenes, but worse.
Yeah, but they don't even have to steal the glasses. They just kind of crack it open.
And then they just find it. Riley figures out it's like, oh, daylight savings time, and then that's it.
Yeah, I think more dynamic action. Just honestly, anything. They could have went more into the history of the Gates family here with Voight. I mean, anything other than some of this shit. It really starts to lose me.
They should have just gotten rid of the FBI angle and maybe made like another just a solo entity going after him, like a detective or another treasure hunter or something.
Yeah.
Or go into like other aspects they didn't explore in the movie.
Yeah, because you can't have your action scene if you're not gonna explain things well, and you're gonna have an action scene instead. The action scene has to be compelling, or else what are we even doing here?
Yeah, why are we here? What are we doing?
What are we doing here?
That really just was a slog. But at that point, you're like an hour and a half into the movie.
Yeah, and there's not much left, which brings us to New York.
Freedom of jail clips inserted. A baby's being born, same time a man is murdered. The beginning and end.
At the Trinity Church, Ian reveals to Nicolas Cage that as a little extra bonus to get him to work for him, he has his dad as hostage, just for a little more incentive.
Yeah, because I remember the scene, because Sean Bean goes, you have to work for me or like I'll kill you, and Nick Cage goes, okay. And then he backs off a little bit, and then Sean Bean's like, no, you really have to work for me. I have Riley and Diane Kruger. And he's like, oh, okay. Then a third time, Nick Cage is like, I don't know. And he's like, really? I have your dad, too.
Yeah, I think they just were like, what do we do with the dad character? We have to have him in the end. Because that doesn't really make a lot of sense.
They gave him too much character to just have him in that scene.
No. Not the girl.
He just keeps bringing in more people he cares about. Then he's like, okay.
Remember this guy from college? I don't even remember his name. This was your first grade teacher. If we get out of here, this bang is gonna be crazy. Maybe my coom will be the regent that the Declaration needs.
You said we need something warm, right?
Oh, God. Don't piss on it. Oh, wait. Keep peeing on it. No, that's good.
My dad did say we need a little heat. And he just starts making out.
So together they look at the Declaration of Independence with the glasses, and they have that little scene where they're like boys for a moment. He's like, you're gonna want to look at this.
That's cool. That I liked a lot. Because they did have a friendship.
Maybe.
seemed like-
They played poker once.
Well, he's like, Gates, I've seen you play poker.
Yeah. So they go into the catacombs, and they find, eventually they have this cavern and this steep decline, and they get to a dead end, and Cage spins a tale, a little lie, telling them that this must mean that it's in, because they see one lantern. He spins it and says that must mean,
Oh, because Daddy Cage starts it off.
that it's in the Old North Church in Boston, because the one lantern is a nod to Paul Revere, one by land, two by sea.
They barely looked around that room. They barely looked around that room for any clues. There's like, this is it?
I put 2 lanterns outside my apartment when I come. How did they not find the massive button?
They didn't look. They really truly didn't even look in this room. They got down here and
I feel
Justin
like-
Bartha freaked out.
They must have had trouble writing this final sequence, and they had to make that because why would the bad guys, after searching through so many cities, so many years,
They're just like, oh, word. No.
it's not here. We're gonna leave.
That's good enough for Sean Bean and co. They abandon them down there.
Well, Sean Bean's just like a wanker. He doesn't know history.
Yeah. He says, oh, that's right. I knew that.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely knew that.
was on my way there, seeing if you guys had anything else to say.
I had a problem with that the bad guys just when there's just a button in the middle of the room and they immediately dismiss it as a dead end and they just leave them there when they know they needed collateral to get Nicolas Cage to help them. So the viewer knows that they need his help. They need Nick Cage's help, and then they just leave him anyway. It makes no sense.
Because Sean Bean thinks they're stuck, so if he needs them, he can get them at any point.
Yeah.
But the treacherous way they took down to that room killed one of his men.
And the people go to that church. There's people that see the hole in the fucking church. They're going to investigate that eventually.
That's a pretty big plot hole, honestly. Just weird. They went into that room. They didn't they literally walk into a room. This is a dead end.
Yeah,
they just
instantly.
don't even look at anything.
So they buy it and leave. They also don't take the pipe that they conveniently need directly after that. So then
they didn't need it.
Ben Franklin Gates uses the pipe to open the door, which I also had a problem with because it looked like he could have just put his fucking finger in there and turned it around. But anyway, they find the treasure. The FBI arrests Ian instead, who is at the Old North Church in Boston, confused. And Benjamin Franklin Gates turns down 10% of the treasure and accepts 1% of the treasure, which is still a lifetime of riches.
They didn't say the amount of money?
No.
Didn't he imply, or he said it was $10 billion in there?
Yeah, they appraise it at one point early in the film. They say $10 billion.
He appraises the treasure no one's ever seen as $10 billion.
Yeah.
How did he appraise all the treasure right there?
10 billion is a ridiculously high number.
It's also specific. Which is a treasure that some people don't even believe is real. Most people don't even believe that it's real.
So if it's $10 billion, what are they getting? Like 1,000 mil?
Is he adjusting for inflation? Like, what the hell?
I have no idea.
So that is the New York sequence, and I think that works better than Philadelphia, but the first half of the movie is way better.
If we're rating sequences, it's Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, DC, 1.
Dad's House.
DC,
That's
is
still
DC.
part of DC. It's like literally DC.
Arctic, I would say.
Yeah, the Arctic, New York City, and then Philadelphia.
Yeah, Philadelphia's the worst part.
It sucks because we're the longest running cable network, or
In Philadelphia.
free access cable network in Philadelphia, and we don't get good representation for our city.
Both free and paid.
Yeah, we're free cable that you have to pay for.
So, were you impressed at all with Turtle Top? Did you like the way this movie was shot? The performances? Anything
There was
like
a
that?
couple cool shots.
Yeah, honestly, in the Philly sequence, I like the one shot.
Where it was like I don't remember what they did. It was like kind of like a moving camera or something.
Yeah, it was tracking behind him. I'll find it and put it on the screen.
I do remember liking that though.
But then there was that silly shot in the DC sequence, and we laughed at it, where it was like they zoomed in on the one door handle, then it like zooms in on another one, then it like zooms in. It zooms in on like 3 things.
I almost kind of like that though.
It was going crazy.
At least they're doing silly stuff. Like I think the direction wasn't like amazing.
No,
But it wasn't like...
it's better than some movies today.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be good. That doesn't have to be like... Oh, it just has to be like solid. And I
Yeah.
think it was very solid. I think even like direction was good. I think all the performances, I would say, were really good almost.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I would say Nick Cage is Nick Cage. He's always good.
Yeah.
Bartha, best of his career.
What they gave him, he did exactly what they wanted him to do.
Kruger, good. Good.
Yeah, she was good.
Voight, good.
I feel like he's always good, but I can't name any real movies.
And then Sean Bean is just the same in everything.
But he's good.
Yeah.
And hard you could tell. I feel like he was
He's
like,
phoning it. He's cashing a check.
he's like, this is my paycheck.
but he's not bad.
No, 'cause he kind of just gives off like he just doesn't even fucking care in the movie, and like by the end of the movie, you're like, oh yeah, he doesn't actually care that much. He's a Freemason.
She wanted me cutty. That bitch is a baby.
When we watched this with a more critical eye, did this change your relationship to this film in any way? Do you respect it less or more?
I think I like it less, but respect it the same amount.
So yeah, I think the filmmaking was a little bit better than I was expecting, because I'm used to watching all these new movies that look like dog shit. But I will say all of the MacGuffins and the reasons for getting them to each MacGuffin as an adult were silly. And
Yeah.
Silly is nice, maybe even stupid.
It was stupid.
Yeah.
But I generally enjoyed what I watched.
Oh, yeah.
I like stupid movies. I feel like I'm very much more in the normie movie enjoyer like mindset than you are, I feel like. Where it's like, you gotta get more. You watch everything. Like, you watch literally
I
everything.
try, yeah.
Where, like, I feel like I would just sit down and watch a movie like National Treasure, like, by myself.
But yeah, you can do way worse than this. I like the colonial ties. I was super interested in the Revolutionary War as a child for some reason. So stuff like that. It's teaching. It's funny. No, we already went over that. It's fun.
Yeah.
There's many locations. I love Nick Cage. I love adventure treasure movies. Everybody loves adventure treasure movies. So it's like, you can do way worse than this film, that's for sure.
Best line of the movie, the lady who says, "We take Visa."
Yeah,
That's it.
That's it.
That's something I just wanted to mention as well.
that's a hit.
There's a lot of, like, I think there's like 3 times where they use someone just doing their job as like a joke. Like, there's that lady who says, "We have Visa." There's the lady at Urban Outfitters who's like, just takes his watch as payment.
Yeah.
And then there's the janitor at the at like the church who's just cleaning.
And you missed the lady at Reading Terminal where she's hiding Diane Kruger.
They use a lot of the, like, people just working their day.
Wait, I might have to go down a peg after that. That's the only way that they can drum up humor is for a random person to watch them do something.
Yeah, that really is it.
Next episode, we have a banger queued up to give you a clue as to what movie it is.
We think you're gonna like it a lot.
Wait, I got locked out of my computer. What's the password again? I see the keys. VAL.
Is it Vorg Frog? Flip liver?
No, I think one of the keys may have been used twice. Maybe it's a historical site.
Twin Towers.
Yep. Twin Towers. All right, guys.